We're jumping into a Winter Guard vs. Criminal Syndicate game against Pat Van Value. I have won the priority roll and choose to use my secures. We draw demons downtown, and mutant extremists target US senators. Going into the game, I'm quite worried since Winter Guard doesn't hit super hard and Criminal Syndicate's leadership lets his model count twice on secures. The saving grace here is that the Incinerate from Demons Downtown will soften him up a bit. Pat's deployment starting at the top is Ulick, Kingpin, Beta Ray Bill, Rhino, and Bullseye. My deployment is Dark Star, Scarlet Witch, Crimson Dynamo, Red Guardian, and Ursa Major. I activate Red Guardian and double walk over to my middle senator and pick it up. Our extract is Mutant Extremists target US senators. Each character can only hold one senator, they are worth 1 victory point each, and you can only take 1 move action per turn if you are holding a senator. Pat activates Bullseye and double walks to the lower left senator and picks it up. I activate Crimson Dynamo, I walk him onto the Demon Portal, and overcharge his capacitors, gaining 2 power. Pat activates Beta Ray Bill, Bill walks twice to stand on the Demon Portal, and he picks up the senator. I activate Ursa Major, he double walks and picks up the bottom right senator. Pat activates Rhino and walks him onto the leftmost Demon Portal. I activate Dark Star and walk her over to the senator and scoop it up. Pat activates Ulick and double walks to pick up the last senator. I activate Scarlet Witch, she walks up and attacks Ulick with Hex Bolt. The attack does 0 damage. I rolled 2 skulls, so I put Hex and Incinerate on Ulick. Pat activates Kingpin. He walks him up near the middle of the board, but is careful to keep him off of the center Demon Portal. This ends the turn. Pat has 3 senators, and I have 3 senators. Pat has 2 Demon Portals, and I have 1. Score is now 5-4. Pat is leading. I think this turn just went okay. Demons is really helping me out here by being low scoring. Only losing by 1 point at the end of turn 1 versus Syndicate is a great place to be. I'm not wild that I haven't done any damage yet, but I get to open up the next turn into Beam City. In the power phase, Demons Downtown triggers. Our secure is Demons Downtown has our comeuppance come due. Each secure is worth 1 point, and in the power phase, any models standing within 1 of the point take the Incinerate condition. Crimson Dynamo and Rhino become incinerated. Beta Ray Bill is standing on a portal, but is immune to the Incinerate condition. I activate Crimson Dynamo. The Winter Guard leadership, the Unbreakable Red Line, triggers. The Unbreakable Red Line is a 2-part leadership. At the start of a character's activation, they may remove a condition. If they are pushed while standing on a secure, they can roll a die. If they roll crit, wild, or shield, they are not pushed. Crimson Dynamo uses the Unbreakable Red Line to remove Incinerate. Dynamo uses propulsion thrusters to place onto the center portal. Dynamo uses Electric Blast to beam Rhino, Beta Ray Bill, and Ulick. Bill uses Corbinite Cybernetics to reduce the damage by 1. Dynamo does 3 damage to Bill and Shock. Ulick reduces the damage with Troll Hide. Dynamo does 2 damage to Ulick. Dynamo does no damage and Shock to Rhino. Crimson Dynamo does another Electric Blast onto Kingpin and Bullseye. Kingpin uses Intense Physical Conditioning to reduce the damage by 1. Dynamo does 4 damage to Kingpin. Dynamo does 2 damage and Shock to Bullseye. Pat activates Beta Ray Bill. Bill uses Summon the Storm to attack Crimson Dynamo. Crimson Dynamo uses Disruption Field. Disruption Field is a defensive superpower on Crimson Dynamo, which lets me reroll 2 of Pat's attack dice, but the attacker has to be within range 3 of Dynamo when they make their attack. The attack does no damage. Bill throws the building Dynamo is standing on at Dynamo. Dynamo reduces the damage he takes with Carborundum Matrix Alloy. He takes 1 damage. Bill attacks Dynamo with Stormbreaker. Dynamo takes 1 damage and stun. I activate Scarlet Witch and attack Ulick with Hexbolt, dealing 2 damage and bleed. I attack Ulick with another Hexbolt, dealing 1 damage and poison. Pat activates Ulick. Ulick uses Crushing Leap. Crushing Leap is an action that moves Ulick short and then 2, and then allows him to make a Pounder's attack. I play No More Mutants with Scarlet Witch. No More Mutants is a reactive team tactics card that cancels a superpower and prevents them from using it for the rest of the turn. A bit of a rules sidebar here. No More Mutants does not take the action away. Ulik advances next to Witch and attacks Witch with his pounders. He deals 2 damage. He throws the building at Witch. I play Brace for Impact to take no damage from the collision. Ulik takes 1 damage from bleed. I activate Red Guardian and throw a shield at Ulik. It deals no damage. He does it again and does no damage again. Pat activates Bullseye and attacks Dynamo with a throwing knife. The attack does no damage, and Bullseye uses I Never Miss. I Never Miss lets Bullseye spend 1 power when he misses an attack to deal 1 damage. Bullseye attacks Dynamo again, dealing no damage. Pat pays for I Never Miss again. I activate Darkstar. She attacks Ulik with Dark Force Strike. She does no damage. She does it again and dazes Ulik. Ulik drops his Senator. Darkstar uses Dimensional Portal to place herself onto the dumpster next to the Demon Portal. Pat activates Rhino and walks towards the middle. He then uses Gore to attack Red Guardian. Red Guardian uses Focused Repulsion Field to count blanks on his defense roll. Rhino does 3 damage. Rhino places next to Red Guardian and on the back Demon Portal. I activate Ursa Major. I walk onto the point and attack Rhino. Rhino reduces the damage with Rhino Hide. Ursa does 2 damage. Ornery triggers, granting Rhino an extra power. I use Ursine Temper to throw the dumpster at Rhino. Rhino takes 2 damage. Pat activates Kingpin. Kingpin walks up to Red Guardian and attacks him. Red Guardian uses Focused Repulsion Field, and Crimson Dynamo uses Disruption Field. The attack does no damage. Kingpin uses Street Level Negotiations to throw Ursa Major away from the action. This ends the turn. Pat has 3 Senators, and I have 3 Senators. Pat has 2 portals, and I have no portals. Kingpin's leadership, Illicit Network, is a 2-part leadership. He can pay 2 power to pass objectives around, and it allows his healthy models to count as 2 when scoring. So even though Darkstar and Rhino are the only models on the rightmost point, it goes to Pat because Rhino counts as 2. This turn went okay. We're getting the damage in thanks to a fantastic activation from Dynamo. Red Guardian doing nothing was rough. I also think that killing Ulik instead of Bill was a bit of a mistake. Bill was scoring 2 points and Ulik only 1. Ulik was also covered in conditions and would have had a bad first activation. The next turn is going to be rough since All According to Plan is about to be played. In the power phase, Pat pays 2 off Ulik, 2 off Bullseye, 1 off Kingpin, and 5 off Rhino to play All According to Plan. All According to Plan is a Criminal Syndicate reactive team tactics card that lets any criminal character contribute power to play it. If you spend 10 power on it, you steal the priority token. Pat now has priority. Demons Downtown places Incinerate on Crimson Dynamo, Rhino, and Darkstar. Pat activates Beta Ray Bill. Bill uses his immeasurable strength to throw Crimson Dynamo into Red Guardian. Dynamo takes 1 damage, and Red Guardian dazes. Bill attacks Crimson Dynamo with Stormbreaker. Dynamo uses Disruption Field. The attack misses. Bill walks to the back portal. I activate Crimson Dynamo. The unbreakable red line triggers, and he removes Incinerate. I play Sovereign Strike. Sovereign Strike is an active Winter Guard team tactics card. Any Winter Guard character can pay 3 power to destroy a size 4 or less terrain piece. All models within 1 of the terrain piece take 2 damage. Dynamo blows up the Daily Bugle that Bill is standing on, dazing him. Bill drops a Senator. Dynamo uses his Electric Blast to shoot Rhino, dealing 3 damage. Rhino uses Aggressive to move onto the middle portal. I use Propulsion Thrusters to move next to Scarlet Witch. I play Patch Up. Patch Up is an active team tactics card that lets 1 friendly model heal another equal to the power you spend. Scarlet Witch pays 4 power to heal Dynamo 4. Dynamo uses Electric Blast to beam Rhino and Kingpin. Rhino takes 1 damage. Dynamo dazes Kingpin. Pat activates Rhino. Rhino attacks Scarlet Witch. Dynamo uses Disruption Field. The attack does 1 damage, and Rhino places next to Witch. Rhino uses Stampede. Stampede is an active superpower that pushes Rhino medium and destroys any size 2 or less terrain he moves over. It also gives him 2 extra dice on his next attack. Rhino uses Nobody Ever Accused the Rhino of Having Good Manners to throw the size 4 building at Darkstar. Darkstar takes 4 damage. Rhino attacks Darkstar. She uses Dark Force Barrier to increase her defenses by 2. Rhino dazes Darkstar and places himself on the portal. Darkstar drops her Senator toward the middle of the board. I activate Scarlet Witch. She attacks Ulik with a Hex Bolt, dealing 2 damage. Witch attacks Rhino with a Hex Bolt. She dazes Rhino. Pat activates Bullseye. He walks onto the portal and throws a knife at Scarlet Witch. She takes 1 damage. I activate Ursa Major and walk him onto the portal. Pat activates Ulik and attacks Scarlet Witch with his Pounders. She takes 2 damage and dazes. She drops her Senator and Ulik picks it up. Ulik walks onto the portal. This ends the turn. Pat has 2 Senators and I have 1. Pat has 1 Demon Portal and I have 1. Score is now 13-9. The turn did not go great for me, but Pat made several misplays that are letting me hang on. Him walking Bill away from the fight only to be blown up by Sovereign Strike was bad for him. Ulik spending his second action walking onto the point and not winning it was another large mistake. I got quite lucky that Dynamo killed Kingpin. This next turn is a big deal. Pat only needs 3 points to win, and there are 9 possible. Demons Downtown incinerates Bullseye, Ulik, Rhino, Darkstar, and Ursa Major. I activate Scarlet Witch. She attacks Ulik with Cruel Twist, dealing 2 damage. She attacks Ulik with Hexbolt, dealing 3 damage, KOing Ulik. She picks up his Senator. Pat activates Rhino and plays This Is a Robbery on Ursa Major. This Is a Robbery is Rhino's team tactic card. Rhino makes Ursa drop his Senator and throws him medium towards my table edge. Rhino picks up the Senator. Rhino attacks Darkstar. I use Disruption Field. Rhino does 2 damage. Rhino attacks Dynamo, dealing 1 damage. He places next to Dynamo. Rhino uses Stampede to slide to the far left portal. I activate Darkstar. She uses the Unbreakable Red Line to remove her Incinerate. She spends 3 power to use Dimensional Portal to place Ursa range 3 closer to the fight. She uses the Dimensional Portal to place herself 3 onto the center portal. She attacks Bullseye. She does 2 damage, dazing Bullseye. He drops the Senator he was holding. She picks up the Senator that was next to Kingpin. She attacks Rhino, dealing 1 damage. Pat activates Kingpin. He attacks Ursa Major with Hail to the King. I play Comrade's Keeper. Comrade's Keeper is Red Guardian's team tactics card. It lets Red Guardian jump in front of an attack, and if he takes damage and he lives, he gets to throw the attacker. Crimson Dynamo uses Disruption Field. Kingpin does 1 damage to Red Guardian. Red Guardian's suit triggers, giving him an extra power. Hail to the King throws Red Guardian toward my board edge and staggers him. Comrade's Keeper throws Kingpin. Kingpin walks next to the Senator and picks it up. I activate Ursa Major. He walks, then charges Rhino. His attack does 2 damage and bleed. Pat passes. I activate Crimson Dynamo. I use his propulsion thrusters to move up and uses Electric Blast to shoot Rhino and Bill. Rhino takes 2 damage. Bill takes 1 damage. Beta Ray Bill uses Honor Bound to walk toward Dynamo. I lay down the same beam again. It does 1 damage to Rhino, KOing him. Rhino drops his Senator. Bill uses Corbinite Cybernetics to take 1 less damage. The attack does no damage, but shocks Bill. Crimson Dynamo picks up the Senator. Pat activates Beta Ray Bill. Bill attacks Dynamo with God Hunter. Dynamo uses Disruption Field. Dynamo takes 1 damage. He attacks Dynamo with Stormbreaker. Dynamo uses Disruption Field. The attack does no damage. I activate Red Guardian. Unbreakable Red Line removes Stagger. He walks up to the Senator and picks it up. He throws his shield at Kingpin. The attack triggers ricochet, but does no damage. We bounce the shield into Bill, but do no damage. This ends the turn. Pat is holding 1 senator, and I am holding 4. Pat has 1 portal, and I have 1 portal. Score is now 15-14. Pat is leading. What a big swing turn. If I do 1 less damage to Rhino there, Pat wins the game. I think there were things that Pat could have done to protect Rhino better, like play fallback. With Pat only having 3 models left, I feel pretty good about this. Pat activates Bullseye. Bullseye uses Hit and Run and attacks Dynamo with Pincushion. The first attack does 1 damage. The second Pincushion attack does 1 damage. Bullseye moves over to the Senator with Hit and Run. He throws a knife at Dynamo. Dynamo blocks it all. Bullseye uses I Never Miss, dealing 1 damage to Dynamo. Dynamo drops his Senator. I activate Ursa Major. I use Bear-Armed Brawler to attack Kingpin. Kingpin blocks all the damage. Bear-Armed Brawler throws Kingpin toward the bottom of the screen and gives him stagger. Ursa walks onto the portal. Pat passes. I activate Darkstar. The unbreakable red line removes her Incinerate. She attacks Bullseye with her Dark Force Strike. It does 1 damage. She attacks him again, doing 3 damage, KOing Bullseye. He drops his Senator. She uses her Dimensional Portal to move Scarlet Witch closer to Bill. Pat activates Beta Ray Bill. He throws Ursa into Darkstar. Ursa takes 1 damage, and Darkstar takes 2. Bill walks twice to my side of the board. He tries to pick up the Senator and stand on the portal, but they're too far apart. I walk Scarlet Witch and Red Guardian to the 2 portals. This ends the game. Pat scores 2 Senators. I score 3 Senators. I score all 3 portals. Final score, 17-20. This game was really close, and I think a ton of stuff had to go my way at the end there for me to pull it out. I think if Pat had played his defensive tactics cards a little bit better, he runs away with the game. If you guys want to see more of Pat, you can find him on Alfredo Size 3 Taco Truck, a Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. If you want to see more of me, click on one of these videos. And remember that fun is a finite resource.